two American men are touring Europe and are scheduled to arrive in France Sunday afternoon. However, they arrived several hours early and had little to do on Sunday morning while everything was closed. "Well," one says to the other, pointing to a nearby cathedral, "why don't we attend Mass?" "Sure," replies his friend, "but we don't know how the French pray, and we can't speak French." The first guy thinks of a solution. "We'll pick a guy in front of us, and whatever he does, we'll do." His friend agrees. They enter the church, sit close to the front, and choose a guy. 15 minutes pass, and their plan is working well. 30 minutes, no issues. By the time 45 minutes pass, they've gotten used to the routine. Suddenly, while everyone is seated, the priest says something in French, and the gentleman they chose stands up. Without thinking, the two Americans stand up as well. The church burst into hard laughter. Realizing that no one else is standing up, the two American men leave in embarrassment. They wait for the Mass to end and then approach the priest who spoke English. "We're well-meaning people. We don't speak French and just chose some guy to imitate while praying," one says. The priest chuckles. "Aha, you're probably wondering why everyone laughed at you." "Yes," replied the other American. "Well, you see, I announced the baptism of a child and asked for the father of the child to stand up." Harold, an undertaker, came home one day with a black eye. His wife, seeing the bruise, asked, "What happened to you?" "Oh, it's been a rough day." Harold sighed. "I had to go to a hotel where a guest had passed away in his sleep. When I arrived, the manager told me they couldn't get him into a body bag because, well, let's just say he still had a bit of energy." His wife raised an eyebrow, but nodded. "All right, go on." "So, I went upstairs, and there was this big guy lying there just as the manager said. I tried to, fold things down so I could get him into the bag." His wife tried to stifle a laugh. "Well, that sounds pretty awkward, but how did you get the black eye?" Harold replied, "Wrong room." In a quiet village, there was a renowned doctor known for his miraculous healing abilities. One day, exhausted from his non-stop work, he longed for a day off. Glancing at his schedule, he saw he had just 3 patients left. Eyeing his assistant, he wondered if he could manage the patients on his own. "Would you mind taking care of the last 3 patients today?" the doctor asked. "Of course, doctor," the assistant replied. The doctor left, and the assistant took on his new role with determination. The next day, when the doctor returned, he eagerly asked, "So, how did it go? Were you able to handle the 3 patients?" The assistant beamed. "Yes, doctor. The first patient had a headache, so I gave him some aspirin." "Good work," the doctor said. "And the second?" "The second had a burn, so I gave him a healing ointment." "Excellent," said the doctor, clearly impressed. "And what about the third?" The assistant chuckled. "The third was unique." A woman walked in, took off all her clothes, laid on the table, and said, "Help me. I haven't seen a man in 5 years." The doctor laughed. "Oh my, and what did you do?" The assistant replied, very seriously, "I gave her eye drops, doctor." Lizard drama. One night after dinner, my son comes to me, worried. "Dad, something's wrong with one of my lizards. He's just lying there looking sick." I put on my serious face and follow him to his room, where one of the lizards is flat on his back, looking stressed. My wife gasps, "Oh my gosh, he's having babies!" "What?" my son shouts. "But their names are Bert and Ernie." "Right," I say. "We got 2 boys." "Well, it's hard to tell sometimes," my wife says, shrugging. We all gather to witness this miracle of birth. After a few minutes, a tiny foot pops out, but then disappears. "Not much progress," I say. "Do something, Dad," my son urges. I reach in, tug gently, but the foot disappears again. "Should I call 911? Asks my daughter. Finally, we take Ernie to the vet. He examines Ernie and says, "He's fine. He's not in labor. He's, just excited." We all stand there a bit confused until my wife bursts into laughter. "I just pictured you pulling on his tiny..." That memory cost us a $30 vet visit, but it was priceless. In a cozy doctor's office in a small town, Anna arrived for her appointment with Dr. Smith, the gynecologist. Feeling a bit nervous, she took her seat in the examination room. Sensing her tension, Dr. Smith decided to break the ice. "Do you know how latex gloves are made?" he asked with a friendly smile. Anna shook her head. "No, I have no idea." Dr. Smith leaned in playfully. "Well, there's a plant in Mexico full of latex. People with different hand sizes dip their hands into it and let them dry. That's how we get our gloves." Anna tried to keep a straight face, but a quiet giggle escaped. After the exam, "Doctor." Smith couldn't help but ask, "So, what was so funny?" Anna, now more relaxed, burst into laughter. "I couldn't help but think, if that's how they make gloves, imagine how they make other things." At his wedding reception, the groom had a bit too much to drink. The next morning, nursing a massive hangover, he asks his best man, "What happened last night?" Well, his best man says, "Your new wife got up and started dancing like crazy. Then I got drunk and joined her. Then you got drunk, saw us dancing, and got so mad you tried to kick her. But you missed and kicked her in the, you know." "Ouch, that must have hurt," the groom says. "It sure did," the best man replies. "2 of my fingers got broken." One night, a guy stumbles home completely drunk. His wife, clearly not amused, is waiting for him. "Where on earth have you been all night?" she demands. He slurs. "This new bar, the Golden Saloon. Everything there's golden. Huge golden doors, golden floors. Even the urinals are gold." His wife doesn't believe him. The next day, she looks up the Golden Saloon and calls to check his story. "Is this the Golden Saloon?" she asks when the bartender answers. "Yep, it is," he says. "Do you really have huge golden doors?" "We sure do." "Golden floors?" "Most certainly." "What about golden urinals?" she presses. There's a long pause before the bartender yells, "Hey, Duke, I think we found the guy who peed in your saxophone last night." A woman was out golfing and hit the ball deep into the woods. When she went to look for it, she found a frog in a trap. The frog said to her, "If you release me from this trap, I will grant you 3 wishes." The woman freed the frog, and the frog said, "Thank you, but I failed to mention that there was a condition to your wishes. Whatever you wish for, your husband will get times 10. The woman said, "That's okay." For her first wish, she wanted to be the most beautiful woman in the world. The frog warned her, you do realize that this wish will also make your husband the most handsome man in the world." The woman replied, "That's okay, because I will be the most beautiful woman and he will have eyes only for me." So, Kazam, she's the most beautiful woman in the world. For her second wish, she wanted to be the richest woman in the world. The frog said, "That will make your husband the richest man in the world, and he will be 10 times richer than you." The woman said, "That's okay, because what's mine is his, and what's his is mine." So, Kazam, she's the richest woman in the world. The frog then inquired about her third wish, and she answered, "I'd like a mild heart attack." The husband leans over and asks his wife, "Do you remember the first time we had love together over 50 years ago? We went behind the village tavern where you leaned against the back fence, and I made love to you." "Yes," she says, "I remember it well." "Okay," he says, "how about taking a stroll around there again and we can do it for old time's sake?" "Oh, Jim, you old devil, that sounds like a crazy but good idea." A police officer sitting in the next booth heard their conversation, and having a chuckle, he thinks to himself, "I've got to see these two old-timers love against a fence. I'll just keep an eye on them so there's no trouble." So he follows them. The elderly couple walks haltingly along, leaning on each other for support aided by walking sticks. Finally, they get to the back of the tavern and make their way to the fence. The old lady lifts her skirt and the old man drops his trousers. They erupt into the most furious that the policeman has ever seen. This goes on for about 10 minutes while both are making loud noises and moaning and screaming. Finally, they both collapse, panting on the ground. The policeman is amazed. He thinks he has learned something about life and old age that he didn't know. After about half an hour of lying on the ground recovering, the old couple struggle to their feet and put their clothes back on. The policeman is still watching and thinks to himself, "This is truly amazing. I've got to ask them what their secret is." So as the couple passes, he says to them, "Excuse me, but that was something else. You must have had a fantastic love life together. Is there some sort of secret to this?" Shaking, the old man is barely able to reply. 50 years ago, that wasn't an electric fence. Three men were standing in line to get into heaven one day. Apparently, it had been a pretty busy day though, so Peter had to tell the first one, "Heaven's getting pretty close to full today, and I've been asked to admit only people who have had particularly horrible deaths. So, what's your story?" So the first man replies, "Well, for a while I've suspected my wife has been cheating on me. So today I came home early to try to catch her red-handed. As I came into my 25th floor apartment, I could tell something was wrong, but all my searching around didn't reveal where this other guy could have been hiding. Finally, I went out to the balcony, and sure enough, there was this man hanging off the railing, 25 floors above ground. By now, I was really mad, so I started beating on him and kicking him, but wouldn't you know it, he wouldn't fall off. So finally, I went back into my apartment and got a hammer and starting hammering on his fingers. Of course, he couldn't stand that for long, so he let go and fell. But even after 25 stories, he fell into the bushes, stunned, but okay. I couldn't stand it anymore, so I ran into the kitchen, grabbed the fridge and threw it over the edge where it landed on him, him instantly. But all the stress and anger got to me, and I had a heart attack and died there on the balcony. That sounds like a pretty bad day to me, said Peter, and let the man in. The second man comes up, and Peter explains to him about heaven being full, and again asks for his story. It's been a very strange day. You see, I live on the 26th floor of my apartment building. And every morning I do my exercises out on my balcony. Well, this morning I must have slipped or something because I fell over the edge. But I got lucky and caught the railing of the balcony on the floor below me. I knew I couldn't hang on for very long when suddenly this man burst out onto the balcony. I thought for sure I was saved when he started beating on me and kicking me. I held on the best I could until he ran into the apartment and grabbed a hammer and started pounding on my hands. Finally, I just let go. But again I got lucky and fell into the bushes below, stunned but all right. Just when I was thinking I was going to be okay, this refrigerator comes falling out of the sky and crushes me instantly, and now I'm here. Once again, Peter had to concede that that sounded like a pretty horrible death. The third man came to the front of the line, and again, the whole process was repeated. Peter explained that heaven was full and asked for his story. Picture this, says the third man. I'm hiding naked inside a refrigerator. This guy decides to have a party and invites a lot of people, telling them to bring their friends. On the invitation, he puts themed party, come as a human emotion. On the night of the party, the first guest arrives, and he opens the door to see a bloke covered in green paint with the letters N and V painted on his chest in another colour. He says to the guy, "Wow, great outfit. What emotion have you come as?" And Tegai says, "I'm green with envy." The host replies, "Brilliant, come in and have a drink." A few minutes later, the next guest arrives, and the host opens the door to see a woman covered in a pink body stocking with a feather boa wrapped around her most intimate parts. He says to the woman, "Wow, great outfit. What emotion have you come as?" And she replies, "I'm tickled pink." The host says, "I love it. Come on in and join the party." A couple of minutes later, the doorbell goes again, and the host opens the door to see two gentlemen, one with his pee stuck in a bowl of custard and the other with his pee stuck in a pear. The host is really shocked and says, "Guys, what the do you think you look like? You could get arrested for standing like that out here in the street. What emotion is this supposed to be?" The first guy replies in a strong West Indian accent, "Well, I'm disgusted, and my friend here has come in despair." A young boy comes home from school and his mother says, "What did you do today?" To which the boy replies, "Oh, the usual. I had a maths test. I got an A in spelling, and I had love with my English teacher." The mother, aghast, doesn't know what to say. She stutters and stammers, and finally says, "Go tell your father what you just told me." The boy goes to see his father and says, "Gee, Mum is really mad." The father asks why. The boy replies, "I just told her what I did in school today. I had a maths test, got an A in spelling, and I had love with my English teacher." Well, the father is beside himself with joy. He gives his son a nudge and a wink and says, "Congratulations, you passed a milestone. I tell you what, let's go out and celebrate. We'll have ice cream and then I'll buy you a new bike." To which the boy says, The ice cream sounds great, but can we hold off on the bike for a few days? My is One day, a blonde woman entered an auto body shop, claiming that she'd suffered extensive damage to her new auto. The mechanic thought he'd have some fun with her, so he told her that she didn't need him to fix all the dents. He said she could fix them herself by blowing into the tailpipe as hard as she could, and they'd all pop out. The woman went home and proceeded to get down on her hands and knees in the driveway. She was blowing into the pipe as hard as she could, and her face was turning purple when another blonde woman walked by and asked what she was doing. After hearing the whole story, the second blonde pauses for a moment, then responds, "Hello? The windows are down." Billy Bob had long heard the stories of an amazing family tradition. It seems that his father, grandfather, and great-grandfather had all been able to walk on water on their 18th birthday. On that special day, they had each walked across the lake to the pub on the far side for their first legal drink. So, when Billy Bob's 18th birthday comes around, he and his pal Bubba take a boat out to the middle of the lake. Billy Bob steps out of the boat and nearly drowns. Bubba just barely manages to pull him to safety. Furious and confused, Billy Bob goes to see his grandmother. "Granny," he asks, "it's my 18th birthday, so why can't I walk across the lake like Pappy, Grandpappy, and Great-Grandpappy?" His granny replies, "'Cause you was born in August. But your Pappy, Grandpappy, and Great-Grandpappy were all born in December, when the lake is frozen." One day, a spaceship landed in a farmer's field, and a Martian couple introduced themselves to the farmer and his wife. The farmer, eager to show hospitality, invited the Martians in for dinner, and they happily agreed. After the meal, the Martian man explained that on their planet, swapping partners was a friendly custom. Not wanting to offend, the farmer agreed, and they paired off for the evening. While the farmer's wife and the Martian man were together, he asked, "So, how does it feel to be with a Martian?" The farmer's wife, slightly amused, replied, "Maybe just a bit more. Substantial." The Martian man twisted his right ear, and like magic, the change happened. A little while later, she hinted that a touch more length wouldn't hurt, and the Martian adjusted his left ear for that request as well. The next morning, over coffee, the farmer asked his wife how her night was. She smiled and said, "Well, let's just say the Martian had some unique adjustments." Curious, the wife then asked her husband, "And how was the Martian woman?" The farmer sighed, "Well, let's just say she spent the whole night tugging on my ears." Mr. and Mrs. Brown had two sons. One was named Mind Your Own Business, and the other was named Trouble. One day, the two boys decided to play hide and seek. Trouble hid while Mind Your Own Business counted to 100. Mind Your Own Business began looking for his brother behind garbage cans and bushes. Then he started looking in and under cars until a policeman approached him and asked, "What are you doing?" "Playing a game," the boy replied. "What is your name?" the officer questioned. "Mind Your Own Business." Furious, the policeman inquired, "Are you looking for trouble?" The boy replied, "Why, yes." There was an elderly couple who in their old age noticed that they were getting a lot more forgetful, so they decided to go to the doctor. The doctor told them that they should start writing things down so they don't forget. They went home and the old lady told her husband to get her a bowl of ice cream. "You might want to write it down," she said. The husband said, "No, I can remember that you want a bowl of ice cream." She then told her husband she wanted a bowl of ice cream with whipped cream. "Write it down," she told him. And again he said, No, I can remember. You want a bowl of ice cream with whipped cream." Then the old lady said, she wants a bowl of ice cream with whipped cream and a cherry on top. "Write it down," she told her husband, and again he said, "No, I got it. You want a bowl of ice cream with whipped cream and a cherry on top." So he goes to get the ice cream and spends an unusually long time in the kitchen, over 30 minutes. He comes out to his wife and hands her a plate of eggs and bacon. The old wife stares at the plate for a moment, then looks at her husband and asks, "Where's the toast? A man and a woman are having dinner at a very fine restaurant." Their waiter is taking another order at a table just a few feet away, when he notices that the man was slowly sliding down his chair and under the table, with the woman acting unconcerned. The waiter watches as the man slides all the way down his chair and out of sight under the table. Still, the woman dining across from him appears calm and unruffled, apparently completely unaware that her dining companion had disappeared. After the waiter finishes taking the order, he comes over to the table and says, "Pardon me, ma'am, but I think your husband just slid under the table." The woman calmly looks up at him and replies, "No, he didn't. He just walked in the door." A couple in their 60s were walking along the beach, admiring the sunset. The wife sees a dirty lamp, and the husband stoops down to dust it off. Magically, a genie appears and thanks the couple for freeing him from his imprisonment. As a reward, the genie says, "I'll grant you each one wish." The wife says, "I want to sail around the world. Send me and my husband on a first-class luxury cruise." Poof! She is suddenly holding 2 tickets for a cruise on the finest luxury ship in the world. The genie then turns to the husband and asks, "And for you, sir, what will your wish be?" The husband looks at his wife, then leans in close to the genie and whispers, "I want a wife that is 30 years younger than me." Poof! He is suddenly 90 years old. As an 80-year-old man was having his annual checkup, the doctor asked him how he was feeling. "I've never been better," he boasted. "I've got an 18-year-old bride who's pregnant and having my child. What do you think about that?" The doctor considered this for a moment, then said, "Let me tell you a story. I knew a guy who was an avid hunter. He never missed a season. But one day he went out in a bit of a hurry, and he accidentally grabbed his umbrella instead of his gun." The doctor continued, "So he was in the woods, and suddenly a grizzly bear appeared in front of him. He raised up his umbrella, pointed it at the bear, and squeezed the handle." "And do you know what happened?" the doctor asked. Dumbfounded, the old man replied, "No." The doctor continued, "The bear dropped dead in front of him." "That's impossible," exclaimed the old man. "Someone else must have shot that bear." The doctor replied, "That's kind of what I'm getting at.